Sure, Disney could try doing this more historically accurate, but I mean, oh, she died at like 21, and they got her by capturing her, and then she fell in love with them. It was all Stockholm Syndrome. Maybe not. Ooh, what are we doing today? Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm nervous about the comment section for this one. I've never turned off the comments in a video, but you worry. Basically, hello, it's Pieman, and we're on a fan cast, and yeah, you know, Pocahontas is a difficult one, and it's one that I've avoided tackling for some time, because let's face it, it's just dodgy. It's just dodgy for a lot of ways, you know. If I'm fan casting this, you gotta look a bit deeper than normal to find a variety of different choices that you can kind of examine for who could play these Native American roles. Because there's not a lot of famous Native American actors. There's some, certainly, but there's not a lot. And then you have to deal with the problem that, should Disney make another one of these, really? Given that, you know, the whole original animated movie was great and all. Loved Pocahontas, great movie, really fun. Kind of really romances the whole thing, doesn't it? It's not quite history. It's not quite history. But we're going to ignore that and just say, you know what? It was a delightful movie. If they were to do it again in live action, these could be some of the people that they could cast, okay? I'm not advising that they do it in live action. Not, you know, nothing, let's just go. So you need Pocahontas, yeah, and it's kind of hard, yeah, it's kind of hard to know what age they want to cast Pocahontas. The whole thing is a romance movie, and yes, they could cast young. Would they be likely to? I don't think so. I don't think they'd cast particularly young with Pocahontas. And it's kind of hard, if I'm being honest, to find Native American child actors, you know, around. So, I'm going to put it out there that they could cast Devery Jacobs. Deborah Jacobs is what she's more commonly known by. Coryanka, I'm not pronouncing that right, is her Native American name. And she's just done a couple of great things recently, like The Order on Netflix. Was really fun in that, and she did Cardinal. She was a guest role for a few episodes in that last year, and that was good as well. That was actually very good. I like Cardinal, and she was very good in it. And she's just a huge advocate. She speaks out a lot about Native American representation and stuff like that, which is so cool. And she is, I think, she looks young enough. Okay, she is about 27, but she looks quite young, I think, and I think she could play Pocahontas age, whatever age they're kind of looking to do. Because obviously, if they're already not quite doing this historically accurate, which they're not going to in a Disney movie, I promise you. Doesn't matter how much darker the Disney live action ones are, they ain't going there. So I don't know if they're that eager to actually go and cast like a 15 or 16-year-old for this role, you know? Anyway, next. John Smith. Chris Hemsworth, yeah, no. Chris Hemsworth got cast a lot for this online, for a lot of years as well, because let's face it, even in like a decade ago, he still looked like a great option for John Smith. But I love him so much more now because he's been able to show off so much more recently his comedic chops. And that's very useful, because John Smith is... he never thought he was a particularly great character, you know? He just seemed like such a plain white boy coming in here and being like, hey, hot native girl, I'll take her, you know? So if they want to, you know, make it feel less like that, I think they need to make John Smith a bit funnier, you know? A bit more self-effacing. Chris Hemsworth's great at that. Okay, next. Radcliffe, what a dick. Radcliffe's just one of those. He's never been quite considered one of those great Disney villains, but he could be, you know? And in my mind, you want him leaning more into this pompousness, you know, because that's what makes him like so frustratingly annoying, is he's so far up his own asshole, you know. But you also have to make him more threatening as well. And in my mind, the mixture of those two things is Ian McShane. He's classically trained. It's any of those classically trained actors, you know, that you kind of think, yeah, one of those types. They'd be so good at pulling off that pompousness and also that threatening level, because Ian McShane, he can be really scary when he wants to be, you know. Like, he was like Tai Lung Kung Fu Panda, you know, that's like next level scary. But he's also like Winston and John Wick, he's so good at that, you know, and that's such a good mixture, that's such a good, like, threatening character who's also so, like, composed all the time, you know? And, like, he did Blackbeard and Pirates. Hell, this guy's he was even in Agent Cody Banks. He's big time, okay? Next, Powhatan. Ah, yes. Pocahontas' father and the chief of the tribe. I mean, again, you know, his daughter's meant to be quite young. Don't know quite what age you're casting here, so I'm just going to cast Gregory Cruz. That's right. I loved him in Hell or High Water, and there he did represent a Native American character. And I would be lying if I said that's not what first made me think he'd be great in this role. That it was. But he's also done so many great roles where he's like cop characters and things like that. And that's kind of what this feels like. You know, Powhatan is so closely policing his whole tribe all the time, particularly Pocahontas. That is what... It's a similar kind of role to how he's this tough cop, you know, all the time. So I think that'd be great. But, you know, I am also speaking from a slight lacking of other options, but Gregory Cruz would be great at it. Next, Thomas, you know, interestingly, he was a young Christian Bale played him in the original movie. He's just John Smith's friend, just his mate, just strolls around with him. He's this young guy, and I kind of thought of this quite some time ago, actually. Art Parkinson would be great for this role. He was Rickon Stark in Game of Thrones, and it's that exact type of, like, young, hang-on kid wandering about as this... He's this sidekick to John Smith, you know. Nothing more to it. But he also was Kubo in Kubo and the Two Strings, which showed off some more chops to him. But he's been doing stuff lately. I kind of thought, like, maybe he'd gone away after Game of Thrones ended, but no, he's been doing plenty of British TV stuff, and yeah, it's just another one where you think, yeah, he's just quite a British character, and they are all British. Great, next. Nakoma is Pocahontas' friend, sidekick. That's, yeah. Same deal. But I thought it would be quite fun, and surprisingly she's not too old for it, to cast, oh dear, here we go, here comes the butchering of another name, Coryanka Kilcher. Yes, she was in The New World in 2005, which was a more historically accurate, not entirely historically accurate, but more historically accurate version of Pocahontas' story. And she played Pocahontas in that. So I was kind of thinking like, oh no, she must be too old by now. But no, she's 30. That came out in 2005. She was 15 when they did that. Quite surprising. Kind of, well, yeah. But anyway, so that's great. That'd be, you know, that would work very well. And Nakoma isn't like a huge role, but she's around quite a bit. And she's only a couple years older than Devery Jacobs, so that would not be an issue. Next, finally, and I don't want to hear any complaints about this one. Grandmother Willow, Whoopi Goldberg. I had to look it up. Honestly, I had to look it up and check that she wasn't the original Grandmother Willow, because to me, I don't know, I watched it again fairly recently, Pocahontas, and I just, in my head, Grandmother Willow is such a similar character to something like Geigen on Star Trek Next Gen, you know, something like that. And when she like sings and stuff, I don't know, it just sounded to me so much like it, but it was Linda Hunt actually as the original voice. And yeah, for me, Whoopi Goldberg is just so perfect for that kind of role, you know. She's got such a great singing voice. She's so, especially by now, she could have done it in like when the original film came out, but she's such a wise, just so smart character. I just love Whoopi Goldberg. I just think like, yeah, no question, perfection. Whoopi Goldberg's freaking great, guys. freaking great. And that's all for this fan cast, guys, but there are so many more to do in the wide world of subscribe, so just make sure that you leave down in the subscribe which subscribe you want me to do next, and I'll be quickly to subscribe to that and then subscribe.